Welcome to the Take the North podcast. I'm David Haugh on the Mully and Haugh show on 670 The Score. Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune at Halas Hall covering the Bears. And not only does a new season begin Sunday, Dan, but as I've been saying all week, it is the start of a new era, the Caleb Williams era. A lot of excitement in town, a lot of stuff to talk about. We need to get going soon.
Yeah, the curtain's about to lift on the Caleb Williams era. We know how he is going to enter Soldier Field on Sunday afternoon. He told us he would do as he usually does and take a little spin as he comes out of the tunnel, take in the environment around him, feel the energy, and off we go, right? It is go time in Caleb's words, and we are ready to go along with him.
You made it sound like he'd be parachuting in. How is he going to enter the stadium? He's going to do a little twirl, right, in the tunnel. That's his thing. We saw from Hard Knocks, he's going to have that deep exhale, the cleansing breath, focus. Here we go. He was speaking on behalf of all of Chicago and all Bears fans everywhere, I think, when he was doing that.
No question about it. I think everybody's ready to take that breath and then ready to get into the storm, right, of 18 weeks of a season that feels like in so many ways it could be both defining and transformative for the franchise.
You can listen to us on your free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. You can watch us on 670 Scores YouTube page. We're going to get to our predictions both for Sunday's game and for the entire season in this episode. But first, we'll start with our opening drive.
It's time for the opening drive.
Just so everyone knows, on Tuesdays and Friday mornings this season, we will be having podcasts. We'll have a reaction pod after every game as soon as we can get on the same page and get done writing and all those things. But Dan, let's start with the debut of Caleb Williams. Jeffrey Simmons talked about it. He's the defensive disruptor down in Tennessee. The anticipation for what they're in for with the Bears offense. Everybody's waiting to see what this new Bears offense looks like. What did we learn this week to give you any clues? How is this new offense coming together?
We'll see, right? And I think that's what everybody's eager to get to on Sunday is to feel out how all of these things sync up together. How does Shane Waldron call plays? How does he find a rhythm for his young quarterback? How do they lean on the running game that they have stressed for months that they're going to lean on to take some pressure off their quarterback? How do they distribute the football in a way that makes sense throughout a game? We'll see. The other part of this, David, is they're going into a game against a defense, a 34 scheme run by first-time coordinator Denard Wilson in his first game calling defensive signals. And so you don't have a whole lot of film to review. You don't have a lot of things that you can lean on in the traditional preparation format for a game like this because you're going to have to do a lot of guesswork to feel out what Denard Wilson is going to throw you. He does come from the Todd Bowles tree. He does come from the Greg Williams tree, the two guys that he, in his early days, sort of took a lot of things from. He's been most recently with Mike McDonald in Baltimore, Jonathan Gannon in Philadelphia before that. So you'd expect with some of that DNA and with what the Bears are bringing to the table with a rookie quarterback, you'd expect a lot of pressure, right? And a real early test on how Caleb Williams is able to handle things, and then an adaptation from there from the Titans that the Bears will then have to respond to.
He also was a scout for the Bears for a couple of years, over a decade ago, I believe. And now he has gotten into coaching, started at the bottom rung of the ladder, climbed his way up. He's a highly regarded defensive coordinator. Some people believe he could be head coaching material. His big challenge Sunday is rattling Caleb Williams. But you know what? He is a rookie.
It's hard to do.
He doesn't sound like he's a guy that's going to be easy to rattle, Dan. I felt like what we heard from Caleb at the podium on Wednesday was more of the same, because it just seemed like whether it was Caleb Williams reciting chapter and verse of what he knows about the Titan defense already, or it was him sounding humble and gracious when he was talking about what made him a captain and what made him his teammates, elect him. I just think that he's so easy to listen to, and it comes so easily to him that the Bears leadership is in good hands.
When we launched this podcast 2+ years ago, we promised that we were going to be forthright and honest with everything that we said on here. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of honesty here. I walked out of Caleb Williams' news conference on Wednesday afternoon and into the Bears locker room and said to a couple fellow media members that I feel like I am starting to get a little bit of an unhealthy, I don't even want to say addiction, but craving for the sessions with Caleb Williams, because every time you listen to him talk, you feel like you're learning something. You feel like he is relaxed and engaged and fully in control of himself, right? Which is a great sign to have as a rookie quarterback going into your first start of what should be a long career, and hopefully much of it in Chicago. And so there is this sort of early honeymoon period where you're like, man, this is different. Cole Kmet used those words to me, to Mark Potash recently. And there is the sense that this guy is in control, but even just in his midweek demeanor and the way he engages and relays information to the fans via the media, it's truly refreshing. And so you're just like, okay, let's keep going on with this ride, because while we're riding the wave, it feels worth riding until it gets to the furthest end of the shore.
It's a natural charisma. It's kind of an effortless way to communicate and connect. It's a skill. He's got people skills, no doubt about it. What stood out to you most? What will we hear from Caleb at the podium as it pertains to Sunday's game?
So one of the things that I've been sort of interested in is the approach that Matt Eberflus put forward in a very intentional manner to overload Caleb Williams in a lot of ways. It was by design. It was when he got in here in the spring, we are going to flood him with a lot of offensive information. We are then going to flood him in practices with a lot of defensive looks and coverages that really test him and give him early exposure to the things he's going to see as an NFL starting quarterback. And then on top of that, when we get into training camp, we're going to do a lot of 1v1s reps, putting Caleb Williams as a rookie quarterback into a battle testing field in which he's going to have to go against a really good NFL defense on an everyday basis. This was by design. To be able to do that, you have to have confidence in your young quarterback's ability to handle stuff from an aptitude standpoint, and then his mental toughness to handle the inevitable struggles that are going to come with that. And so I had a short back and forth with Caleb on Wednesday about that approach that Matt Eberflus put forward to him and some of the net gains that he's made from that. Here's a little bit of that exchange from Wednesday afternoon.
I haven't been trying to, add to the challenge throughout the time. They, first day they were out there trying to get after us, get after me, and bringing that challenge to me. And so it's been awesome, the amount of ball that I've been able to see, the amount of ball that I've been able to learn from the coaches, and also from being out there with the guys, listening to people like Keenan, and also going versus the defense. So it's been great. It's been honestly really fun, really exciting times, and we're getting ready to go.
Some of that has pushed you through struggles that you don't have to wait for the regular season to experience for the first time.
Yeah. I think that the way we practice, I don't think there's many teams that practice the way we do. And so I think being able to go versus defense like this, and how tough they are on QBs and things like that, going through this and all of that, I think it's going to help me for, obviously there's going to be times when I do struggle, but when those times come, you know how to kind of get back on track, how to react and things like that in those moments. And I think going versus defense, every single day has helped.
Two things come to mind when I hear that. First of all, he's so expansive. It's great. Long may that last. He's unpolluted so far. He's not jaded. He's just very, very open. I've been surprised by that in terms of what you expect and what we had heard. And boy, I tell you, he is just tremendous. So a couple reactions to that. I think that I wonder if he adapts as quickly as some people expect him to. This notion about a defensive-minded head coach not being a right guy for a quarterback like this, I wonder how many offensive-minded head coaches would have the inclination to want to say, oh, you know what, how he's going to get better? We're going to challenge him with this great defense on a regular basis because I have seen this work before, and that's his mindset. The defensive-minded head coach using his defense to get the most out of his young quarterback. So I wonder if this whole idea that we branded him a defensive-minded head coach in the end might help him progress quickly. The other thing is that the preseason speed of the game didn't seem to faze Caleb Williams, but we have heard from whether it's Dave Wanstead on the score or other coaches who have been quoted, and that's going to be different week one of the regular season when guys are playing for money and their careers. So I wonder how this quarterback whose ability to process information quickly has been a strength and very natural and innate, how he's able to do that, because it will have a step up in speed and class on Sunday at Soldier Field.
Yeah, I liken it to driver's ed, right? You can be really, really skilled at moving around the school parking lot. You can go back on the side streets behind the neighborhood and gain some comfort there. And then when the instructor says, hey, we got to get out on the highway for the first time, well, that's a different deal. You got to learn how to merge. You got to learn how to switch lanes. You got to learn how to get off the highway. You got to do things when it's going by you at speeds that you're not used to. And so that'll be a test Sunday for sure for Caleb Williams. The approach you're talking about with Matt Eberflus can't happen unless there's a universal trust inside the building that the quarterback not only wants it, but can handle it.
Right.
And so when you have a student who wants more knowledge, who wants to push himself on a daily basis, you then have to give him the volume of information that you think he can take to the extreme without cracking. And to everyone's credit inside this building right now, I think they found the happy medium with that in a way that has pushed Caleb forward. As we talked about, David, earlier in the week, the ultimate goal here is that Caleb has already endured struggles that he won't have to wait until September, October, and November to endure. That is one of the advantages of anointing a guy your starter the minute you draft him, because you don't have to sit behind a veteran and watch them make mistakes and learn behind the scenes. You get in there and you make them yourself, and then you grow from them. But in order to grow from them, you have to be very sturdy mentally. And I think Caleb has done that, crossed that bridge, and now it's time to take these next few tests here to start the regular season.
The responsibility is great. You wonder if the burden feels light to a quarterback who in college had to go into every game expecting to score in the 30s, maybe even more than that, because the defense wasn't good. He was playing in the Pac-12 where they don't play much defense. So he knew what he was expected to do, and that was to score a lot of touchdowns, which brings us to Shane Waldron on Thursday at Halas Hall, who addressed this, right?
Correct.
Caleb was in college. He literally had to score like 35, 40 points to win a lot of his games. With his defense, he should not have that responsibility. I'm curious if there's a psychology involved with a quarterback like him, that every time he goes out there, he doesn't feel like he's chasing points or trying to keep up, has a little bit of the wind at his back. Is that a factor at all for him when he goes out there at this level?
Yeah, I think for us, for this year, the 2024 Bears, like our goal is to play great complementary football. And so we've talked about, one of the key components to that is not turning the ball over, taking care of the football, and ending each drive with a kick. Our goal is to end every single drive on offense with an extra point. But if that's not the case right there, a field goal or a potential punt is also a positive situation for us because we have a great special teams unit. We have a great defense right there. So working together with all three phases to go through a game, I think is important. Something we'll talk about, and every single week, whether it's the factor of the weather, the opponent, all those things. There's a different strategy that might be put to work each week, and so being on the same page. And I think Coach Eberflus does a great job of connecting us as a team with the weekly approach there on what it takes to get it done each and every single week.
David, you heard a goal there that's worth writing down here before we get into week one, and it's end every drive with a kick. It's a very fair and understandable objective that if you can't score a touchdown, get a field goal, or make sure you punt and don't turn the football over, and then lean on your defense and special teams to help you. What I worry about a little bit, and we're going to have to see it play out in the first month of the season, is does that become a overly conservative and somewhat restrictive MO for a young quarterback that's going to need to make some mistakes to learn and grow into what he ultimately needs to become in this league to sustain the level of excellence that he's chasing. And so that's going to be a balance for Shane Waldron, a balance for Matt Eberflus, a balance for Caleb Williams to figure out how to make that a primary objective without it becoming something that makes you a little bit gun shy or fearful instead of fearless in moments where you want to try to make some plays. And so that'll be worth monitoring in the early going.
It will be. I wonder if they look at it this way. They want to have that as sort of the boilerplate template because they have a quarterback who just instinctively is going to take those chances and take those risks because he has such a high percentage rate in the past in his previous stops, whether it's high school, Oklahoma, or USC, of being successful taking those chances. So he's going to throw the ball against his body to Rome Odunze because he knows he can put it on the money. So I wonder if Shane Waldron, until he gets to the point where he's acclimated, he feels more confident, more adjusted to the speed of the game, if they're going to try to take those, I don't want to say if they're going to try to minimize those risks, but they're going to try to make things safer for him, more predictable, short passing game, quick passing game, establish the run, and take maybe the matters out of his own hands until he's at the point where he can take over with his own talents.
A couple other quick themes from the Shane Waldron Thursday news conference. Number one, he certainly sounded a lot like Luke Getsy, if you listened closely, in terms of being very process over results oriented, right? And not being so driven to judge a performance by what the end result is, and more so trying to figure out, did we do the right things the right way? He talked a lot about operational efficiency, making sure there's no pre-snap penalties. You're managing the play play clock properly and doing things that put your team in position to succeed. And then the other thing that struck me in a similar manner is this resistance to expectations and predictions. And I think it's really healthy inside the building to put up that electric fence and not let those things in, because the rest of the world wants to know where this is headed. The rest of the world wants to know where is the bar set, and if you don't clear it, then what? Inside the building here, they're talking about being present, being stuck where your feet are on that given day, and just making sure you understand who you are at this stage of your development, and making sure you're trying to take step by step to get a little bit better without being encumbered by expectations from the outside world, by statistical projections, which we'll give you some of those later in the program, and just trying to create an environment for Caleb where he doesn't lose sight of the daily goal while he's trying to chase a very big, ambitious long-term goal.
Well, they can stay away from predictions. They can stay away from projections. That doesn't mean that we will, because we have plenty of those to offer here in What to Watch, our next segment. All right, Dan. So first of all, before we get into some of the numbers about what we expect on terms of Sunday points scored, we need to talk about the numbers that are important. You look at the number USC is retiring.
Oh, yeah.
13. Number 13, Caleb Williams wore for the Trojans. They are retiring that jersey along with Reggie Bush's 25. Is that right? Reggie Bush and Caleb Williams having their numbers retired in the Coliseum. They will hang forever. That's big news.
Yeah, Heisman Trophy winners, both of them. And I'm not sure where Reggie's trophy is these days. I know Caleb's was shown on a shelf between two Lego models recently.
I think I saw Reggie's on eBay last Thursday. I don't know, maybe.
I think you got it back. I don't know. I don't know where all those things go. But yeah, that's certainly a milestone accomplishment for Caleb. And maybe he'll be the last Bears quarterback to wear 18.
Wow. Now that is something Dan Wiederer predicts. I like that thought. I like that train of thought. All right, let's get to a couple of little things before we get to our predictions. We talk about the effect of Shane Waldron on Caleb Williams. I am also curious in this game as the opener, because openers are hard to predict. Brian Callahan is in Nashville because they have a young quarterback too. Will Levis is not Caleb Williams, but Brian Callahan's effect on Will Levis is, in the eyes of Titans fans and their organization, it's got to be as dramatic as Shane Waldron is on Caleb Williams. That alliance between play caller and quarterback is tight. What do you expect from Brian Callahan and his impact on the Mayo Man?
Listen, Brian Callahan has a pretty strong reputation around the league, and there are people last year that were raving before the hiring cycle began about where he could wind up because of the things he did with Jake Browning. Joe Burrow got hurt, and the Bengals offense didn't seem like it missed a beat, and obviously Zach Taylor's part of that, and Brian Callahan's along for part of the ride. But there were some things shown where you saw, okay, it doesn't matter who's taking the snaps for us. We're going to get production, and we're going to use our strengths to have offensive success. And so I think there's some respect here internally at Halas Hall about what Brian Callahan will bring to the table. Will Levis also has some real luxuries the same way Caleb Williams has them. He has an offensive line that has been invested in. The Titans have used their last 2 first-round picks on offensive linemen that will play right next to each other in J.C. Latham and hometown kid Peter Skoronski coming back to Chicago. They also went out and signed a center in Lloyd Cushenberry that gives them some stability up front. And oh, by the way, take a look at a veteran receiving corps that includes DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, and Calvin Ridley. There are guys there. You talk about Caleb Williams needing to play point guard and let his guys do the damage. Throw in the mix Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, and you see a Tennessee offense that has some explosive power. It's just kind of a matter and a curiosity of how quickly they can find their rhythm, the way so many teams undergoing a regime change have to find their identity.
So quickly looking at that Titan offense, do you expect them more to try to mirror the Bengal approach with the big plays, with the, you had Burrow and Jamar Chase, and they had receiving core, and they had a quarterback that was capable of doing whatever he wanted? Or do you expect maybe the traditional Titan approach when they had Derrick Henry? Yeah. He's gone, but as you said, Pollard is there, the offensive line they trust. The receivers, while proven, aren't exactly the way they were 5 years ago. They're getting older too. Would you expect a conservative, more conventional, run-oriented Titan approach, or would you think they might open it up, look for the big play because they trust Levis to make it happen the way that Callahan once trusted Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I would say somewhere in the middle, because I think we can both agree that Will Levis is not Joe Burrow, and I think we can both agree that Brian Callahan is not Mike Vrabel. And so you've got sort of a blend here where you've got to find your spots. Pick your spots if you're the Titans. I know Eric Washington, the Bears defensive coordinator today, talked about the need to keep Will Levis in the pocket and get the ball out of his hands because he's got a really strong arm and can extend plays in a way that's pretty productive, and didn't turn the ball over a lot either in the time that he played as a rookie last season. And so there will be a challenge there for the Bears, but I think they're ready for it. Look, like we've talked a lot about where this defense is headed here at Halas Hall. Now it's time to head there, right? Like you got to start showing the rest of the league what you've talked about for months becoming, which is a top 5 unit that can put its fingerprints over every single game it plays.
A couple roster nuggets before we get to our predictions. Long snapper Scott Daly, he'll be activated on game day. Any question about that?
No, absolutely. That's 100% the plan. I will throw on a little footnote to that. Brad Biggs and I saw Patrick Scales walking down the hallway after open locker room today. Patrick Scales looked pretty good, sounded pretty good, seemed pretty optimistic for a guy who just recently had back surgery. He was walking pretty crisply and looked pretty good and seemed to feel pretty good as well.
I think until he actually sneezes, you won't know how badly his back hurts.
Sure.
You never quite can be sure.
I just know that if I had back surgery, I wouldn't be walking the way he was walking today.
Good point. Wasn't that long ago. So maybe Scott Daly should still be living out of his parents' spare room instead of maybe could be temporary, his role as a long snapper. And how about the injury report? DeMarcus Walker on it. It looks like that Ryan Bates was a full participant in practice on Thursday. Anything on the injury report that is noteworthy?
Keenan Allen, Montez Sweat. More on both of these in a little bit.
Okay.
Toe injury for Montez Sweat limited today. Keenan Allen heel injury limited today. Everything else is status quo from earlier in the week. Roschon Johnson, Zach Pickens still dealing with their own injury issues. But those two guys, Keenan Allen and Montez Sweat, worth watching their production and their movement in week 1 and just trying to figure out if this is something that is short term or maybe has a little bit more behind it.
All right, let's bring in Adam Sadzinski. We're going to make our game predictions. Nothing on the injury report makes me hesitant to predict the outcome. Nothing on the injury report yet makes me feel like I'm going to change my prediction based on his availability. Sweat and Allen, certainly you worry about those things. But I'm going Bears are on the lakefront. Bears are at home. Bears are favored. Bears cover. 27-21. Bears over Titans. They're going to get 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdown passes from Caleb to whoever. DeAndre Swift is going to score, and then they're going to get 2 field goals from Mr. Santos. And Mr. Santos is going to give the Bears 27 points, and the Titans are going to be held to 21. Bears win. Bears win.
All right, I will echo those sentiments. I have a different score, but I do have a Bears victory and a Bears cover. I have 23-16. Caleb Williams wins his NFL regular season debut, but he doesn't have to be the headliner or the lead act in the show. Big day from DeAndre Swift coming. The Bears lean into their running game. And a big day from the defense, which is going to get 3 takeaways, including at least 1 Jalen Johnson interception on Sunday as they create a 23-16 win and start the season 1-0.
That suggests that they're going to have a pass rush that gets to Will Levis so close that they're going to be able to smell his male perfume.
We'll see. Maybe, maybe not.
All right. I think we're all on the same page, which I don't think has ever had. Well, maybe once it's happened for week 1, but I also am predicting a Bears win. Fairly similar score to yours, Dan. I'm going to go 24-19. So they're just going to cover if it's still 4.5 the last time I checked. And I'm actually going to predict 1 Caleb Williams passing touchdown and a couple rushing touchdowns. DeAndre Swift and Jordan Howard are going to both get in the end zone. Cairo Santos field goal to add on to that. And I think that overall, like if you look at the Bears roster top to bottom, I think it's just better. And it's been a long time since we've been able to say that about, well, with the exception of the Panthers game last year. But
does Caleb Williams take that football from his first touchdown pass and hold on to it, not give it to any equipment managers and stuff it in his backpack at halftime?
He's going to give it to his receiver, whoever caught it. Didn't he say that? He's going to keep
He said he'd give it to Rome if it was Rome.
Guy.
He's not going to give it
Right.
to DJ. I mean, DJ's got 100 touchdown balls already. Caleb's keeping his first touchdown pass if it goes to DJ.
But what if DJ wants to give it to his daughter, and they could be a nice little moment for Hard Knocks Part 2, the sequel? I don't know. I mean, you got to think of these things.
Maybe you consider it.
So we all 3 have the Bears winning. Okay, so that's not a huge surprise. We do have other predictions in our final segment. come back, Studs. You're going to help us with the season-long predictions. So reappear in that box. Right there he is. All right, so we're going to go through the categories. We're going to begin with big picture and then get a little bit more specific as we go along. Let's start with the Bears record. I want to be consistent. I said this after the schedule was released. I wanted to see what happened in preseason, but then nothing really has changed. It's not who you play, it's when you play them. The Bears have to start fast. This is a team that has playoff potential. Not going to deny anybody that right to get carried away. I think it's a little early to talk Super Bowl, but they are good enough to win more than they lose. They're going to lose some games they should win. They might win one that they shouldn't. But overall, this is a 9-8 team with a chance to win double digits. Absolutely. They're going to be in almost every game because of that defense. But I think the Bears end up 9-8, just on the outside looking in the fringe. But it will be a relevant season with the arrow pointing up.
Okay, so buckle in for this one. One of the common themes in my Twitter mentions is that, Wiederer, it's so weird to hear you talking positively about the Bears. Well, mark down September 5th, 4:13 p.m. as the moment that I changed my record prediction for the 2024 Chicago Bears. The Bears are a 9-7 football team when this year ends. Yes, you heard that right, 9-7. It means that they are going to Green Bay for Week 18 with a season on the line game against the Packers at Lambeau Field. You want theater? You've got theater. The Bears with a chance to get into the playoffs with a win on the road against Green Bay at Lambeau Field. Guess what, David? Mr. Positive tells you they get it done.
Wow.
With a late game-winning drive from their rookie quarterback to go to 10-7 and make the playoffs. You guys want a little bit of meat in these predictions. You got meat in these predictions right out of the gates. 10-7, Bears in the playoffs.
Caleb Williams has done this to you. This is who are you? 10-7. All right, I get that. I like the specificity of it because last year, if you remember, I don't go to every road game, but I did go to that one, and I was disappointed that I made the trip because the Bears blew it. This year, I'm going to go again, and this year, I'm going to hold you to it. They're not going to blow it.
And remember, when I walked into that press box last year, I said, we already know what's going to happen.
Yes, you did. Yes,
and it happened. It happened just like we thought.
Studs?
Okay, so I'm also going to stick with my prediction from earlier in the year. I'm going to say that the Bears do go 9-8, but a slight difference. I do think they are going to sneak into the playoffs at the third wild card spot with that 9-8 record. The NFC is just not that strong top to bottom. And so I think that 9-8 is going to get you in. That's how the Packers got in last year. And Dan, I think that last year you predicted the exact same thing for the last week of the season for Bears Packers, but flipped it because we, like you said, we all knew. So I'm glad that you finally changed your tone on that. So, but yeah, I got the. Sorry, go ahead.
They changed quarterbacks. Why do you think Dan changed his tone? I mean, really?
Hey, it's fair. That's fair. So, but yeah, I think the Bears go 9-8. I can see them starting pretty strong, and then those division games start hitting. So, 9-8 and get in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens.
I'm on the high end of this with the 10-7. So
I like it.
I didn't see that one coming.
All right, next.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, write it down. Dan predicting more wins than me is an upset. Sorry.
First time ever.
I know. That could break the internet and our podcast. Our audience would be floored. All right, the most valuable player. I want to also be consistent because I made the argument on the Mully and Haugh show earlier in the week that my mind has shifted. The Kalo effect is something in Chicago. It's changing minds all over town. Montez Sweat to me was the most indispensable Bear. I no longer think that. I think that Caleb Williams is more indispensable than Montez Sweat. I think the drop-off between him and Tyson Bagent, as much as I am a founding member of the Bagency, is greater than going from Montez Sweat to whoever his replacement is. So, for me, it's cliche, it's easy, it's on brand, but the most valuable player of the Chicago Bears this year will be number 18, Caleb Williams.
Okay. I'll mark that down here as well. I thought that the safe choice in this category was Montez Sweat. not provocative, but safe. You talk about a guy that has an opportunity to impact the defense. But I'm going in a different direction because I do think the defense is going to be the engine of this football team this year. And I think the one guy that has impressed me more than any other over the last 7 weeks leading up to the regular season is the guy in the 30. Used to wear the 33 jersey, now wears the number 1 jersey. Jalen Johnson is playing at a level where he is not only going to establish himself as a repeat Pro Bowl selection, but he's going to get that all-pro consideration that he thinks he deserves. I just love the way that this guy has responded to getting paid and getting accolades in 2023 and using those as fuel to get hungrier. I don't know how certain guys do that. Jalen Johnson has done it, and I think you're going to see a special player within a really good defense this year.
Good pick.
I think it's funny, Dan. I was thinking about going Jalen Johnson, and I agree with you. I think he's going to have an extremely good year. But my prediction on this, it might be kind of lame and chalky. I'm going DJ Moore. I just feel like as much as we talked about Keenan Allen coming in, Rome Odunze being a great addition, Caleb Williams obviously with his addition, DJ Moore is a top 10 receiver in the NFL at his best. And I think that he's going to have a fantastic season and he's going to lead the way. And we're just going to look back and be like, man, DJ Moore somehow quietly had 1,300 yards this year. and we barely noticed it. And I know that might not be the profile of an MVP, but he's just so low key. And I think he's going to be an invaluable part of the offense.
DJ Moore, Mondays at 8 o'clock on the Mully and Haugh Show on your free Odyssey app and 670score.com. Have to include that. All right, good one. Next category, the breakout player. I'll start here. The breakout player to me, I don't know if it's much of a breakout, but he's been the most overlooked important Bear to me of the preseason. And DeAndre Swift, who will be playing his first game on Sunday for the Bears, is going to be a guy that quietly, as you referred to DJ Moore, quietly having 1,300 yards. I think quietly we're going to see him be very productive. He's going to give them the running game that they need offensively, and he's going to be great out of the backfield. We saw a glimpse of that in preseason. But for me, the breakout player, somebody who's never done it before, I know he's a proven guy for the most part, but this is his third team, though. He's going to be the breakout player for 2024.
The obvious choice here for me is Caleb Williams. You picked him as your team MVP, David. I picked him as my breakout player. If I had to choose a runner-up, I would go with slot cornerback Kyler Gordon. I think what we saw from him in glimpses during the preseason tells you that he is going to be an impact guy on this defense every single week, and they know that he can be a chess piece for them, that he can blitz, that he can be used in different ways to allow them to have success defensively. I think he's ready to ascend to the next level in his career. And so if I'm not allowed to pick Caleb because it's too obvious, Kyler Gordon is the second guy in that category that I would highlight, star, and put a circle around.
Both are good choices.
All right. I think that, it's I kind of like that none of us are going with Caleb Williams here, but I think
I kind of did.
Yeah. But, I think that we're all kind of in agreement. Like we're kind of thinking he's going to come along as the season goes. So I'm going to go a little bit more outside the box. I'm going to go defense. And if you're a listener to the Bernstein and Holmes show on The Score, you know that I am the number one fan of Gervon Dexter Sr. I think he's going to have a breakout season, and the Bears are going to find that they found their 3 technique. I think the last half of the season last year, he was the best rookie defensive lineman in the league. And if he can continue that and continue to keep his pad level low, which is still his number one concern as far as keeping him back, then he is a monster of a human. And so I hope they move him around a little bit too, and get him on the edge a little bit, and maybe on the edge opposite of Montez Sweat every now and then. I think that'd be pretty cool. But anyway, I think that Gervon Dexter is going to have a really, really good season, and the Bears are going to be like, yeah, we found our guy in the interior of that line.
He's as important as anybody in that front interior defensive line, no question about that. All right, here's a tough one, the category. Most disappointing Chicago Bear for 2024. I hate my answer. I hate my answer because I think that I don't want to be right. But to me, the most disappointing player is going to be Jaquan Brisker. I think Jaquan Brisker could be a candidate for this category only because availability is the most important ability, and I fear that he's not going to be available. I don't know that we saw enough of him in preseason. I think we're still waiting for him to make that step that I expect Kyler Gordon to make. We've seen glimpses of that. So Jaquan Brisker, not because I don't love the way he plays when he's on the field, I really do. But I think that they're going to need safety depth because I'm not sure he's going to be around, and therefore he's going to disappoint many people, including me.
As you say, a very hard category to choose in. You just said availability is the best ability, and I'm using the same logic and then looking down at my Thursday afternoon injury report and seeing Keenan Allen, heel, limited in practice this week. I'm worried about this, guys. I'll be honest with you. I'm nervous about an injury that seems like it has a potential connection to the injury that cost Keenan Allen the final 4 games of his really, really productive 2023 season. I don't want to see Keenan Allen heel on my injury report after this week. I just don't want to see it. If it's there, I'm worried that this could be something that lingers all year and prevents him from being the weapon that the Bears thought they were trading for back in the spring. To give you a little bit of an asterisk on this, last year I chose Tevin Jenkins in this category for similar reasons. Tevin Jenkins started the season on injured reserve. He was dealing with a calf issue, and it was like, oh, here we go again with Tevin. Tevin came back and played pretty well. After he came off of IR, I think he only missed one more game the rest of the year and was pretty solid. So maybe Keenan gets over this injury hump, but I'm being very, very honest when I say I'm nervous about where that foot is at for Keenan Allen right now.
It's an understandable concern, Dan. The one thing that's held Keenan Allen back at any point in his career is injuries. So I actually, what's funny is I thought about going with either one of the two that you guys have said so far. And so I'm just going to stick with what my initial gut said, which was also Jaquan Brisker, like you, David. And for pretty much all the same reasons you said, like, I think he's a really good player when he's on the field, but the way that he plays makes him susceptible to injuries. I do think that the Bears, the way they've talked this year, are going to interchange himself or Brisker and Byard a little bit. So they're going to kind of be alternating who's playing in the box. But Brisker has been hurt both of his seasons with the Bears at some point. And if he can't stay on the field, he can't continue his ascension. So I'm going to go with Brisker on that one.
Keeping the predictions going, division champ in the NFC North and our Super Bowl matchup. I still think the Lions are going to take the North. I think the Packers will be the second team, and then the Bears and the Vikings in that order. So I think it's going to be tough. And some people have the Lions going to the Super Bowl. I do not. I have the San Francisco 49ers winning the NFC because I think it's an annual tradition. I think I've picked them every year for the last 5, it seems. The Kyle Shanahan era, I think I've picked them. They're going to get it done this year with Brock Purdy. They're going to beat the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl, and they will be celebrating all over the Bay Area. All the preseason angst they put aside, they focus and they celebrate a Super Bowl title.
Buckle in for this one because I think that the Take the North division champ is an easy pick. It's the Lions. I picked them last year, and there was some pushback. Oh, they're still the Lions. Well, they weren't. They were a different Lions group, and they got within a quarter and a half of playing for the Super Bowl. And so they're not only going to take the North, they're going to take the NFC. And I have them moving on to the Super Bowl to play the Buffalo Bills. I think it's really convenient and easy in this category to just pick a Chiefs 49ers rematch and tell everybody, yeah, it's an easy pick and go down that route. I think the Lions are ready to make that next step, to get over that hump, to go to the Super Bowl. I think the Bills are finally going to get through that Chiefs wall that they've been running into over and over again. And I think you're going to see a Super Bowl Sunday in New Orleans where it's the Bills and the Lions with Buffalo winning it.
You know the Bills have to throw the ball. They can't run the ball. They have what receivers are they going to throw the ball to get to the Super Bowl?
Josh Allen doesn't care.
Okay. Good pick. I'll remember this.
That's hilarious. Okay, guys, listen, we made the same mistake last year, and nobody put the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year. And what they do, they won the Super Bowl again. I am never picking against Patrick Mahomes ever again. The Chiefs are going to be in the Super Bowl.
You're the smart one.
Yeah, the Chiefs are going to be in the Super Bowl, and I don't think that needs any more explanation than that. Then they have Patrick Mahomes, and no one else in the AFC does. Now, the NFC is a lot tougher, and I also came down to trying to decide between the 49ers and the Lions, because I should say I do think the Lions are going to win the NFC North again, just like you guys said. And again, as much as boring as it is, I think the 49ers are going to win. And if anything, because I just can't believe in Jared Goff for some reason. I can't pick him over the 49ers again. So I know it's kind of lame, but I'm going to go Chiefs 49ers, and the Chiefs are going to win again because it's Patrick Mahomes and he's becoming the Michael Jordan of the NFL. And we can all look back on this in January or February when the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl ready to win it again, and we can be like, yeah, Adam Studs was right again. So
well, you do know that one of the reasons that I love this prediction segment is because we do come back in January and we review it, and we do the honk honk toot toot ceremony where we give ourselves props for all the predictions that we had right, and we kind of gloss over the ones that we had way wrong.
Our last prediction category will be Caleb Williams' 2024 stat line in terms of yards, touchdown passes, and passer rating. I noticed that we're not including interceptions, but
we can.
I think that Caleb Williams is going to have 3,950 passing yards.
Chicago Bears record.
It will set a new record. I think that he's going to have 33 touchdown passes.
Chicago Bears record.
I think he's going to have 15 interceptions. And I think his passer rating is going to be 99.7.
Wow. Impressive. That's way up there. I am not as bullish on Caleb Williams statistically as you are. I think you have heard my optimism and my encouraged thoughts about where Caleb's headed. I also have him setting a new Bears single season passing record with 3,842 yards. Guess what, guys? We talked about that season finale in Green Bay. His last pass of the season to set up the game-winning score is the one that breaks the Bears single season passing record. You talk about predictions. That's a prediction. 3,842 on the passing yards, 24 passing touchdowns, modest total there for his rookie season, and a passer rating of 92.6.
Not bad.
Okay. This is crazy. I'm not as optimistic on the stats as you guys are, but I'm going to go. I do think, for the record, that Caleb Williams will eventually break every Bears passing record, especially those single season ones. Not this year, though. I'm going to go with 3,515 passing yards, and I'm going to go.
You think to run in the wishbone? 3,500 yards?
Hey, David. No Bears quarterback has ever thrown for more than 3,800 yards in the season. I need to see it before
okay,
you know.
That's true. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And I'm going to go with 29 passing touchdowns. So we're going to get just up to that 30 touchdown. And I'm going to go with 16 interceptions. I don't know what that would make his passer rating to be, but I'm going to ballpark around 87 to 90. And I know that's not a solid prediction, but somewhere between 87 and 90. I could probably enter that into a calculator online somewhere and figure it out.
Primecomputing.com if you're ever trying to figure out passer rating. So you can
Primecomputing.com.
Okay.
We'll do a
beautiful
free
place
for them.
Okay.
All right, that's fun. Those are good predictions. We'll come back at the end of the season and have fun, and we'll laugh about how right I was. So that'll be a lot of fun. All right, let's wrap things up with our 2-minute drill.
The 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill.
So a lot of pomp, a lot of circumstance, Dan. It's going to be the home opener. It's noon on the lakefront. I'm a little surprised it's not a primetime event because of how the Bears became sort of the it team in the NFL. If you're not talking about the Chiefs, well, I guess maybe the Jets just because of Aaron Rodgers and the Cowboys for obvious reasons. But the Bears have really emerged as a team worthy of conversation. So that's going to be a lot of fun. The broadcast team is Adam Amin, Chicago's very own, does a terrific job, and the Sanchez, Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez and I had an incredible conversation on Wednesday evening. More details of that to come in the weeks ahead. I will just tell you this, that you need to be tuned into the broadcast on Sunday because Mark has experience that is going to give him perspective on the Caleb Williams experience that's hard to match. Listen, Mark Sanchez not only went to USC, Mark Sanchez was a top 5 pick that played in a major media market when his career started for a defensive-minded coach with a good defense and a strong running game around him. He knows what the Caleb Williams experience is going to be like in a lot of ways in 2024. Mark Sanchez sat inside this building for the 2017 season after the Bears drafted Mitch Trubisky and made Sanchez a coach in cleats to help Mitch along. He knows what Halas Hall is like. He knows what the city of Chicago is like. He knows what the starvation in this place is to find that forever savior quarterback. I promise you this broadcast on Sunday is going to be filled with nuggets and insight that you're going to want to listen to. And then in the weeks ahead, both at chicagotribune.com and here on the Take Note podcast, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that Mark and I talked about that I think are really, really cool, insightful thoughts on what the Caleb Williams experience is going to be like.
Oh my gosh. I'm totally hooked. I'm sure that you remember. I don't know that you remember, but was it 2017?
Yep.
He was the Bear.
Yep.
Do you remember me going down to
I sure
Bourbonnais
do.
and having that moment with Sanchez and like
Was it in the
he had
field
me at-
house?
Yes,
Yep.
it was in the field house. He had me at hello.
Yep.
I tell you, that was one of the most memorable Bears interviews that I had with a guy who I think I just met that day. Instant chemistry in terms of he's very conversational, and you can see why he's a good analyst. You can see why was a good leader. He's such an easy guy to talk to. I am looking forward to that, and not surprised that you had that kind of rapport with him.
Well, and David, and just talking to him on Wednesday night, he is looking forward to bringing this to the broadcast. He's a guy who takes his preparation very seriously, and he's ready to give the audience of Bears Titans on Sunday a lot of insight. I think it's going to be pretty cool to listen to, and then I'll fill in the gaps behind that when we get into the coming weeks.
A couple bookkeeping notes just for people who are regular listeners, and we appreciate all of your loyalty. On Sunday after the game, Sunday evening, we will have a post-game reaction pod like we typically do. Dan and I will both be at Soldier Field covering the game. After we're done writing, we will do a post-game pod. And then Monday at 6 o'clock Chicago time, from 6 to 7, we're going to do a special live Take the North on 670 The Score. I'm going to be on 6 to 7 p.m. after being early in the morning, 6 to 7 a.m. But we're going to do a nighttime, prime time, Take the North live broadcast, reacting to, obviously, Sunday's game, but also looking ahead based on what is said Monday on Overreaction Monday. Dan, that's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited for that. That's a cool opportunity and something that I think we're going to do a handful of times throughout the season. Should be a cool new twist on some of the stuff we do here on the show, with a lot, as you said, to both react to and overreact to after Bears Titans goes down on Sunday, with the Bears, obviously, as we told you earlier in the show, winning 23-16.
Random question. Who's your favorite former Titan?
Eddie George.
Oh, wow. That's a good one. Eddie George. That's a really good one. I'm going to say Blaine Bishop.
Okay.
Ball State Cardinal, friend of the program, chirp, chirp, former teammate at Ball State. And plus, he's also a guy with great insight into Nate Davis. I've been really leaning on him during the Nate Davis experience. He's good friends with Kevin Byard and has some good experience. So he's kind of relevant this week because Blaine also does Sports Talk Radio in Nashville as a guy who was a Pro Bowler for the Titans for a very long time. But there are a lot of guys that choose from. They've had a pretty interesting history, and their team. I don't know that they have an identity, Dan. I don't think. What do you think of now that Derrick Henry's gone? What do you think of when you think about the Tennessee Titans? Let's hope, from the Bears' perspective, that they're still asking that question about 3:15 on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, I'm thinking about the receiving core, as I said earlier, and so, but we don't know what that's going to look like. As you mentioned, those guys were all really, really good 3, 4, 5 years ago. We don't know how much they've got left in the tank, but that's what I think of. And I also think of Eddie George, great runner. Eddie George was at Ohio State when I got to college at Illinois, and I think he had 640 yards and 9 touchdowns during the game against the Illini my freshman year.
You don't forget those things. We covered a lot of ground. We got to our predictions. We're excited about the opener. I think we covered everything, right?
Absolutely. Should be fun. We're there. It's go time, in Caleb's words. It's go time. We are ready to get to Soldier Field. I know I will see you Sunday morning in that press box with whatever the lavish spread is that we have set out for us for week 1. I'm looking forward to feeding my face and then watching a lot of football.
Looking forward to it as well. You can catch us on the Take the North podcast on your free Odyssey app. You can watch us on 670 Score's YouTube page. And again, Monday night, 670 The Score, we will be live with the Take the North special episode. We will talk to you before that, after the game. Thank you for listening to the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.